Schwartz from City Pulse, back at the studio, Message Maker Studio in Old Town for the first spring sit-down meeting with the mayor of Lansing, Andy Schor. Andy, good to see you again.
Good, happy spring.
Happy spring. I got a lot to cover, so I want to jump right into it. Red Cedar, the Red Cedar project. Now we've got a couple of members of City Council saying if the vote were now, they'd vote against it, and a couple of more leaning against it. It needs 6 votes to get by City Council. That's scheduled for April 22nd.
Yep.
Are you concerned?
No. You know, this is going through a public vetting, as it should be, and people are raising questions, as they should. We're confident in the plan that's out there. We've got an amended development agreement, which is based on the financing, what can be financed. You know, the city is not continually still not bonding, so we're not putting our taxpayer dollars in up front. We will be reimbursing through brownfield like we do for pretty much a lot of different plans when there's contamination, when there's need as an urban infill, things like that. But I mean, I've heard the questions of some of the council members, and some of them I agree with and some of them I don't. So I think a lot of that will be worked out. My expectation or hope right now is that there will be 6 votes on the 22nd. If there aren't, we'll continue to have conversations to see if the plan needs to change. And at the end of the day, council needs to approve the development agreement and the brownfield, and we're working towards that. And if things go wrong, we'll try and adjust. And if it's defeated, then we'll move to the next thing. But I'm still confident that it's going to pass.
Pass on the 22nd?
I think so. I think so. We're going to take every minute up until that time to make sure that we have the right plan that has support.
So if you were writing an editorial on this,
sure,
where would you come down? Obviously, you favor it, but what are the things you would suggest to the developer? You need to fix this.
You know, I don't think there are big fixes that are needed. I think a lot of it is information needs to get out. You know, there are a lot of questions about the housing. So is it 1 bedroom? Is it 2 bedroom? Is it studio? Again, we don't always go down into the weeds like that, but we know that from the last plan that was approved 6 months ago to now, the official student housing has been reduced. You know, your general traditional student housing is your common room with several bedrooms surrounding it so that it's cheaper for the students so they can get in and have housing. That model has been reduced from the original proposal. Now, the questions that have been brought up is...
Well, let me interrupt you on that, because the number of beds has been reduced, right, but the number of buildings has been increased, which some people are saying, well, now this thing is looking more like a student housing project.
Well, but there's a building for student housing. There's a building for market rate housing. Market rate housing can be anybody. Mm-hmm. If it's studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, that just means they are charging full rate for a studio, a 1 bedroom, or a 2 bedroom. It's the same thing we're doing at the downtown, where the downtown grocery store is. It's the same thing we're doing with the Waypoint project down at Jolly and Dunkel. If students decide that they can afford a studio, 1 bedroom, or 2 bedroom, then they'll rent. If young professionals decide they can afford it, then they'll rent.
So are you saying the impression we've been given is it's now 3 student housing apartment buildings compared to 2? You're saying that's incorrect?
I do not believe that's correct. I believe that, and in talking to council members who have this concern, their concern is students can now go into the market rate housing, which is true. Students can rent anywhere. We're not prohibiting students. Students can rent anywhere. The questions that I've gotten from some council members were, you know, how's it being marketed? The Skyview project, as I recall, the concerns were when that went up, it was told to the city that it was going to be marketed young professionals. And then as soon as it was built, the marketing that went out said student housing. Mm-hmm. And that's how I recall it as well. And I was mad about it at the time. In this case, you know, how's the marketing going to be done? Those are some of the questions that are being played around with. But there is a student housing specific component, and then the rest is market driven. And if you can afford that, if someone who is downsizing can afford that, if a young professional can afford that, if a student can afford that, whoever can afford it is going to rent. There's no requirement that you're a student. There's no prohibition for students. It's a market rate housing component, and there is a mix of beds. The student specific mix for that model went down, but yeah, students can be anywhere. They can they can rent wherever. We see a lot of students from East Lansing that are renting in Lansing. We see a lot more that are grad students. We see a lot more that are international students. They can afford that, to be honest with you, and they want to get away from the kind of the deep campus life. It's not the same Rick's experience, that where they're going and partying at Rick's, so they want to be off campus. So we see a lot of that. Go into Strange Matter almost any day and try and get a seat, and you'll see a lot of students there. These are students that are living in Lansing, and I'll take that. I like the fact that we have a lot of MSU students living in Lansing. So when it comes to this project, for a market rate apartment, whoever can afford it is going to rent it.
Excuse me. You said you share some concerns. What concerns do you
again,
share?
it's not even, it's the questions. How is this being marketed? Is it being marketed strictly for students? Is it being marketed for young professionals? Is it being marketed for everyone? I'd like to see it marketed for everybody. I would love to see more young professionals who work in Lansing and are living there, and again, people who are downsizing. So for me, if it's a matter of spelling out, this is not strictly going to be marketed to students, fine. That's fine with me. There have been a lot of other questions and concerns raised. Councilman Spatafor raised the issue of surface parking kind of on the river. For me, when you look at it from Michigan Avenue, this is going to be a mixed-use, zero lot line project. It's going to look like an urban infill project. Yes, that means that there is going to have to be hidden parking from Michigan Avenue on the backside, and that means that there will be some surface lots which are going to actually be greened with grass and things like that that are on the river. I guess, do I like that? No, it's not my preference. But when there's a comparison to driving down Michigan Avenue, the entrance of the city coming from campus to Capitol, and seeing, an urban infill buildings, 4-story buildings, 3-story buildings going up and down Michigan Avenue, that's my priority. My priority is higher to be able to see what looks like a city and Main Street environment from the street, rather than what I'm worried about for people who are on boats on the river or running on the river trail. Do I want parking lots there? No, I would like to see an active river trail as well, like we're doing in other parts of the city. But the first priority is that corridor, that Michigan Avenue corridor, and that's what we're getting. We're getting a mixed-use Michigan Avenue corridor.
And, as you're, I'm sure, aware, City Pulse named Skyview as eyesore of the year. Part of the reason was that it sits back from Michigan Avenue.
Yep.
A lot of it, though, was the construction material. It's not brick, et cetera.
Sure.
How much has the city actually looked at what these buildings are going to look like, especially since you're talking about how important it is, the impression that this is going to make?
I know, again, you're getting way down into the weeds on this, but we've looked at it. I can't tell you offhand what the materials are. It's got to be affordable, so it's steel structure. But I don't know offhand what the materials are going to look like outward face. We've got the diagrams, and the diagrams that we've got are actually exhibits as part of the development agreement. So what they have submitted are not just pretty pictures. These are the exhibits as part of the development agreement. That is the agreement between the city and the developers. So you'd have to take a look. I think you guys probably have published these in the past.
A few.
Yeah, what the pictures look like. So you can take a look at that there. And again, anybody who wants to comment on that, now's the time. I have not heard that for this project yet.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, moving on. I wanted to touch on your budget priorities, since City Council has to consider those in the near future. What are your budget priorities for the coming fiscal year?
We did not have as many dollars to play around with to propose new things, but we looked at public safety. We looked at neighborhoods. We proposed a new police officer position, a new community policing position. We've got 10 community policing districts throughout the city. We'd like to create 11. It's always difficult to add a police officer because it's about $135,000 a year in cost, and that's significant in our budget. Plus there are legacy costs and things like that. But we did think it was important. I thought it was important. that we added one more community policing officer. Lansing created community policing, and the more proactive policing we do, the better. And I hear compliments all the time for our community policing officers, businesses downtown and Old Town, different neighborhoods who want more community policing because they want someone in that neighborhood as a presence, not just responding to crime, but being there and assisting and helping out. So that was a priority. We added a new code compliance officer. So that's somebody who basically does rental inspections and things. And we're behind on rental inspections. And so we think adding one more officer will help us to catch up, and it will somewhat pay for itself in that the more you inspect, the more fees that you get. There's only a certain amount of that makes sense, because at some point when you're up to date, then you don't collect more fees. Mm-hmm. But we think that that we will collect fees off of this, so it wasn't as big of a cost as other positions. So we added that. We're seeing a lot of work within our planning and zoning. Just a lot of people are coming because they want to make changes or they want to look at properties and things, and we've got a planning and zoning staff that needs some help. So we proposed adding another city planner. We used to have something like 15 or 20, and now we've got 2. So we're adding one more, and at some point we're going to see retirements and things like that. So we want to make sure we have people who are experienced. So we did a lot of that work. We looked at a lot of our parks and things where we proposed to put Wi-Fi in 5 of our parks, and that will be in collaboration with the internet, the wired internet that we provide for cameras and things that are around the city. We're going to be proposing to upgrade some of those cameras that will be coming the next week or 2. So a lot of that connected as part of a really neighborhood impact. I'm trying to think of what the other pieces were. I gave the budget presentation a few weeks ago, and it's not fresh in my memory. But
it's ironic. I was just thinking as you started to answer the question, I wonder whatever happened to those cameras that were narrow installed. They're still in use.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're still in use. We've had several crimes over the last few weeks and months where you get a crime, you get a shooting, you get something like that, and they go to the videotape, they go to the camera. But those cameras were put in 15 years ago, through a grant, and the technology has jumped in that time. So you pull a camera feed, and it's limited in how you may see a 90 or 110 degree area, and they're old analog cameras, so it's not like they're digital quality. They need to be upgraded, and we're going to do that. But they have been great assistance towards helping to catch criminals. We have a little more advantage now than we did 15 years ago because a lot of businesses have security, homeowners have security. I have a Ring device on my home that captures video. So if someone were to break into my home, I can get that video and provide it to police. So we have more avenues and more areas of the city where we can cover outside of just the cameras that we've got up. But it's a tool to help to catch and hopefully as we move forward to prevent crime.
So 420 is approaching at the annual marijuana celebration. We could have 20 dispensaries. We have 2. What's going on?
We have 19 approved. City of Lansing has 19 approved right now. So the clerk originally, the ordinance says 20 and then 5. You know this well. The city has 19 approved. They're waiting on state approval. And, the governor has just eliminated the board and created a division of LARA, the department. We're waiting on those approvals. And when the state approves or denies, we can move forward. The clerk is opening up the process for the next 5. So we will have, I think they're waiting on one more scoring before they can approve the 20th for the original batch. And then they'll do the next 5. And we're waiting on the state. So, there's nothing more I can do other than we've had conversations with the state. We know that several communities have, and they're going to give approvals or denials, and then as those flesh out, if those get denied and they're part of our approvals, then we can look at kind of the next folks who have been denied within the process, or we'll work on that process. But we've got 19. They're just waiting.
City Pulse reported that there is a $400,000 or $500,000 discrepancy between fees collected and documented expense for regulating medical marijuana. Granted, first year, it's a moving target. It's hard to know how much you need. But the documentation part seems to have eluded the city from the outset. Do you think there ought to be much better documentation going forward?
So the marijuana, the question is fees in general. To what depth do you document fees? Under the law, if somebody challenges us, if somebody sues us and says, you're taking my money and you're not using it for the program, then we have to produce evidence. That's the Bolt decision that came right out of the Lansing rate tax. You remember this. So if Kyle Kaminsky on your staff were to call me and say, code compliance, how are the fees broken out? We may not have that broken out. We have many, many fees, and we may not have each one broken out for each individual person's time. If somebody challenges it, you wrote that story, our city attorneys, they said, now we're going to go through and document because somebody's probably going to challenge us. So we'll have that information, but we know without a doubt, we're spending more than the amount of fees that we brought in. We know that without a doubt. Between our city clerk staff, between our the time that our attorneys have spent on marijuana, between our police officers and all of the activities they've had to do, our code compliance, our fire, all the approval processes, and all the the building safety and all that, everything that we've had to do that we wouldn't do if we didn't have this ordinance, we know we're spending more than that. So we'll document it and we'll have that written out. We can go back and have people look at, hours and things like that. People don't, our attorneys, we've gone through this before also, our attorneys don't log by hour. They're not, it's not like they charge by the hour because they are city attorneys. They're not private attorneys, but we can go through and look at meetings and things like that. We can look at court dates. We've been sued by, a whole variety of different people, and we've won almost every suit. So we can look at, how much time they've had been in court. We can put together enough of an evidence that shows that it's more than the amount that we've taken in.
Isn't part of the fairness of this, though, to say, yeah, I understand the argument that more people in various departments are spending more time on this, but it's not true. It doesn't appear to be true that they're spending more time working overall. They would have been paid anyway. So
we have to document their time. We have to document.
No, I understand that, but this argument that there's all of this expense, isn't it really the argument that we've had to sacrifice doing other things, or were these people just sitting around?
No, there are other things that were sacrificed. That's true.
Right. So how is it really more expense?
Well, it's the expense. The expense that it takes to actually satisfy the ordinance. That's the fee goes towards the program. That's the law. The law says the fee that's charged goes towards the program. Otherwise, it's tax. Right. So anybody that's doing work for that program, in essence, you get charged. It's like an enterprise fund. So our enterprise funds, our parking staff is working and being paid through the enterprise fund for that fee. If we collect more, then it can be called a tax, but we have to spend for our garages and for our parking staff and for the apps and all of that stuff. These are staff who are now, in essence, their time that would have been used for other things is now being dedicated for this. And as long as it's dedicated as long as this percentage of their time is being dedicated for this, then we can charge those fees for that payment.
Why not use that money to hire more people to do the other things that are being neglected?
But we may reverse it and use that money to hire people to do these things. And again, this is first year. We have to figure out how much is coming in every year, how much work is going to be done every year, and then move forward. With recreational, things changed a bit. So now when we're working on, what ordinance, how do we need to change the ordinance? What do we need to do for recreational? if somebody is in a few years, if somebody's not licensed for medical, then they can get recreational permits unless we have an ordinance. So I think a lot of that is in flux. So before I want to hire people full time just for this and then let our other people do their whole job, I need to figure out what this looks like. So the money is going towards these activities, and we very likely will get to what you're talking about in terms of, now the clerk's already done that with a staffer or two. I think they brought on several part-timers to evaluate licenses and stuff. If we can bring on, again, building safety, if we can bring on code just for these entities and pay for it with the fees, we'll absolutely do that. We just need to figure out what it looks like year to year.
Okay. From 420 to 527, where do you stand on reporting your 527 account?
It's done. We have filed with the IRS. I still, you and I will disagree, but I still say there is, again, election lawyers, there is confusion within the federal law. I understand your point. We talked about it last time, but we filed with the IRS last year's everything I gave you already. We filed that with the IRS, and we're waiting to hear back. It takes weeks. There's a whole process. First, you have to file to create a username, and then you have to file online. And if you go search on the IRS's website, we show up. So we're there. We'll file this year when we have to. So we'll file it. Again, I still think there's vagueness in the law, but we are going to voluntarily.
It's a vague law, vaguely enforced.
Yeah, so we're going to voluntarily file.
Right.
But it's everything we've already given.
You had a fundraiser on March 20th for the 527 account. I never got an answer on whether I could attend. I want to question, I guess, the premise that should be, it's obviously your choice to make it private, but the ethics of keeping something private where the idea of the account is give money to benefit the city. Why not? What would these people want to keep it private for?
It's not taxpayer dollars. This is something that is being done where these dollars are not taxpayer dollars that can be used to support city things. Lots of people do that. The community foundation, there are lots of different people who raise money to do good things within our city, and we appreciate it. Chamber of Commerce, many people will give money towards great things in the city. And that's what this does. I'm not going to use taxpayer dollars to support every different incredible entity out there because it's not appropriate. We don't have enough taxpayer dollars to do it. So that's what this effort is for. And it's for things that I need to use it for to be mayor. Again, if that means, attending meetings, I used part of it for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Well, I didn't use taxpayer dollars, that I used this fund. All of that is.
I understand that. I guess I have a hard time understanding why you would not want to say, look, some of these people may be doing this to influence me. Let's just have it all out in the sunshine. Right.
It is all out in the sunshine. We've provided every contributor. I mean, in terms of the actual event.
Well, we don't know what you said to people.
I literally, I got up there and I thanked them for being there. I mean, that's what I said. I got up there and I said, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the city of Lansing. I thanked my wife and my children. It was about 2.5 minutes because last year when we had the event, I gave like a 6-minute speech about we have a downtown grocery store. We have everything that you already know. And I was told it was too long. So it really is just a chance for people to come, have breakfast, hear me thank them for contributing. It was at the Orioles Museum. Do you want to know what I heard from most people? Holy cow, I didn't know this was here. I didn't know the Orioles Museum was here. I had people walking around. I had a gentleman who worked for GM for years who said he didn't know it was there, and he literally teared up seeing some of those old cars.
Why not open it to me?
Because there are some people who, it's a ticketed event.
Well, if the media wishes to pay.
But if the media wish to pay for a ticket event, you would 100%.
But would it be on the record?
Yeah, anybody who was there, regardless of who they work for, can talk about it.
Okay.
So if you wanted to pay, you want to pay for the ticket, you are welcome to come.
Okay.
Now, my only request was some people are uncomfortable around reporters, so they may not want you asking them things at that event. But if you want to come and hear if you want to pay the $50 to hear my 2.5-minute speech, you're welcome.
All right. Judge Hugh Clark has told us that some proponents of court consolidation are now acknowledging no real or significant savings, and that the county would lose money. Obviously, Judge Clark is opposed to this because he feels it would be a disadvantage for black candidates for judge if judges were selected countywide. But where do we stand in court consolidation? And is there new information that it is may not even break even?
This is not new. I think the last time, maybe 2 times ago, you asked me, and I have been very public to say this is good government. We will not lose money. The city will not lose money on this.
Will the county lose money?
They might for a year or two, a little bit. They might for a year or two in order to create good government. And that has never been a question. I mean, this is not something new.
Okay, that's fine. Plans for the city market. I know the waterfront, the case suit waterfront is probably coming to a head. Most likely waterfront's going to have to leave. What are you thinking once they do?
We would like to repurpose that space. We just have been not able to do that because there's a court case going on. And
repurpose it how?
We have not received a ton of proposal and a ton of actual proposals. We have a lot of ideas, but I expect, we had 2 or 3. We've talked about this before. I think restaurant. There was a proposal for a play space, but they were crowdfunding, and I don't think that ever came, that ever succeeded. But we have to follow up. It'll likely be some kind of a restaurant or store, but I think some kind of a restaurant is probably the most likely scenario right now. That's what it's been used for in the past, although it's been used as a market. We've had people with ideas for market capacity, but we're going to have the Meijer right across the street. So I would expect there to be some form of restaurant, but we're still working on it in terms of what it'll look like. And we wanted to work with people for final proposals months ago, but the waterfront has taken us to court, as is their right. They had a court date yesterday, and we'll see what the court says.
My idea is a skating rink surrounded by a restaurant and whatever. And it could be very cool.
If you can bring me a proposal and you can tell me how it's going to be financed, I will consider it. There are a lot of really good ideas, but we don't want to subsidize. The city doesn't want to subsidize. We want this to be self-sustaining. We want it to be great for the community. I'd love to have a higher end restaurant in that area. We have a lot of sandwich shops downtown. I'd love to have a higher end restaurant there.
Scooters.
Are
they? We haven't heard from Lime or Bird. Are they coming back?
We think they are. They have not yet taken out the permits. We worked with them when we did the ordinance. Again, council received their input and we made changes at their request. I think so. It was 70 degrees a few days ago, and it's supposed to be a major snowstorm this weekend. So we think they're coming back, but I have not talked to them personally.
All right. Anything you want to bring to our attention?
You covered a lot in a real short time. You covered a lot.
All right.
Well, we do have a new city treasurer.
Yes.
Judy Keeler,
right.
who was the city treasurer for Dave Hollister, 1993 to 95 or 96. I believe she was the first African American female city treasurer, and she knocked it out of the park. I had a great conversation with her. The miracles of social media. When this was first reported, she hit me up on LinkedIn, and I told her to apply. I never use LinkedIn. I check it like every 3 months. I check it, but I randomly checked it. And she said, "I saw you're going to post, and I'm interested." And I said, "Please apply." And she hit it out of the park. She's going to be a fantastic addition to our cabinet. She wants to go out and talk to businesses and others, and work on. We've talked about some of our income tax collections and other tax collections, and she has some great ideas. She's been at MSU. She was at City of Lansing. I think she can be a great addition to our cabinet.
Yeah, and you can read about her and your new fire chief, who was very engaging in City Pulse this week.
Yes, he sat down with you and with Kyle, and so yeah, I'm glad that we're able to share information on our leadership for the city as it progresses.
Very good. See you next month.
See you next month.
Thanks, everybody. Again, from Message Makers in Old Town on behalf of the City Pulse, I'm Burl Schwartz.